All right, welcome. I'd like to introduce the amazing Dr. Emily Splichal here on our ChangeMaker TV call today. Hey, Em, thanks for joining us.
Hi. Yeah, of course.
Really, really excited to have you on here as a change maker within the fitness industry who's doing incredible things. I'm so inspired by the work that you do. And, we met around 8 years ago back in Bangkok when I was working for California. And it was really exciting to see what you'd launched there. It was the catwalk confidence program that you had, and just to see the transition and the change that you've made in your own business since then. Again, like I said, is mind blowing, and just such a change maker within the fitness industry, and creating such an impact. So that's why I wanted to have you on this call today.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm excited to hopefully inspire some of the listeners to seek their goals.
Definitely. And so just a little bit about Dr. Emily Splichal. She is a podiatrist and human movement specialist, and is the founder of Evidence-Based Fitness Academy and the creator of Barefoot Training Specialist, Barefoot RX, and Bare Workout certifications for health and wellness professionals. With over 15 years in the fitness industry, Dr. Splichal has dedicated her medical career towards studying postural alignment and human movement as it relates to foot function and barefoot training. I know you've done some other things since then, Em, so please let us know what else you've been up to.
Sure. So I actually just launched and developed what's called Naboso technology, which is our very first product. It took me 2 years to develop this barefoot training or barefoot stimulated material, where we have two products. Our first product is a barefoot training mat, which is designed to uniquely stimulate the skin on the bottom of the feet, which then transfers to posture, alignment, performance, rehab, etc. And then coming out in the next month, we actually have Naboso insoles, which is a way to actually bring barefoot stimulation into shoes. So very excited to have not just kind of the clinical side of what I do, the education side, but now we actually have a product, which is a whole nother adventure.
Yeah, definitely. That's so exciting. And tell us a little bit then about how you've got to where you are now, how you've transitioned through your career and through your business, through where you started and really to where you are now, how you've made these significant changes and how it's evolved.
Yeah, sure. So my path has been nothing but straight, where people think, okay, you're supposed to go from high school to undergrad to grad to whatever, have children and blah, blah, whatever it is, from straight line. Mine has very much been zigzaggy. My bachelor's is actually in forensic science, and that was my first, I guess, professional career path that I was going to go down. And that's actually how I ended up in New York City, was through my bachelor's in forensic science. I got a job at John Jay College, was going to get a PhD in forensic science, kind of go that whole route. And I loved it, but hated the kind of closed lack of movement side of forensic. So it was very intellectually stimulating. It was very kind of logical, but I needed to move. That was my passion. I was a gymnast for 13 years. I remember being in the lab at John Jay College, and it was in the summer, and I would look out in New York City and seeing people like out doing their whole thing, and I was sitting there like micropipetting DNA, and I was like, oh, I can't take this. I need to like be moving and just be out there. So I quit. And I became a personal trainer.
Yeah.
And I probably devastated my parents with that. But when I went and started doing fitness, it was the first time really in my life, even though I was really young there, but kind of in the whole exploration of career, that I felt at home. And I think anyone who is either in fitness or who has found like that, like this is it. That's really what fitness did to me. And I was like, this is what I need my career to be involved in. and started doing training and teaching classes. Then I started getting hurt. So I was like, okay, like from a career perspective, I cannot have my body be my tool, because there is a life expectancy to that. You're going to hit a certain age, you're going to wear your body down, etc. So I was like, okay, I want to stay in fitness. Movement is my passion, but I need an advanced degree to then kind of match this, so I'm not using my body as my tool. So then I went back to school, got post-bac for medical, and just wound up in podiatry, partly because I loved New York and did not want to leave New York. So
That's a good enough reason.
I know, it's crazy. I was like, I want to be a doctor, but I must be accepted to a medical school in Manhattan, or I'm not going to go. There's really not that many medical schools in Manhattan, so it was very limited. And at that time, I actually didn't know osteopathic school, so my exposure was very limited. There's no chiropractic schools in New York, so that's where I ran into podiatry. There is a podiatry medical school in Harlem, and checked it out. I was like, I don't know, but okay, then signed up, loved it. But as I was going and getting my medical degree, I continuously blended it with fitness the entire time. I actually trained and taught classes the entire time through med school. And I remember from day one, people are like, you're going to have to quit. You have to quit. You have to leave your job. You cannot do fitness and be a med student. And I refused. It was so hard. But I knew that I was going to medical school because I was going to combine it someday with fitness. I didn't know how, but I knew someday, somehow. So on my lunch hours at med school, I would run from Harlem, get on the train, teach a spinning class, get back up for my next session or my next lecture back in Harlem. And I was continuously running around. Through residency, I would treat patients, sprint out of the hospital, teach a spinning class, get back to the hospital to see some other patients. And I somehow combined it in there, which was extremely stressful. So I don't recommend it unless you're like up for the heartache of like how hard it is. And then when I finished that, it still didn't really fit. I had the podiatry, I had the fitness, but it still wasn't there. I knew that I had to connect those two somehow. And then that's why I went back kind of the other way around, and I got my master's in human movement, focused primarily on barefoot science. And then that really was the link between fitness, medical or podiatry, and then that connected it. And then that's really what's evolved to Evidence-Based Fitness Academy, our certifications, the way that I treat patients. So I really kind of came in knowing that I wanted the underlying tone to be fitness and movement. And I had no idea that I would end up here, but this is exactly where I want to be.
Yeah, that's perfect. So I think, one of the big things that I was hearing there is everyone said that you couldn't do it. It was pretty much everyone was against you with their own limited, input on saying it couldn't be done. And I acknowledge you for the fact that you stayed true to what you knew that you wanted to do. And even though you didn't know how to do it at the time, it's just been this progression. And that's the thing that I've noticed is, it started from what I know from when, meeting you first with Catwalk Confidence, and then it's, built into evidence, your evidence-based academy and so forth. And, and now into, the technology that you're developing. It's like you didn't necessarily know the steps, but you had the clarity around what it was that you wanted, and you knew that within you, and you just kept going.
Yeah, and I think the other is that's true of people saying like, no, you can't do this, you shouldn't do this. This is not the like normal traditional way of doing things. And I think over all these years is my intuition.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I can say is I'm like, okay, the time's not right to do, a product yet. I know I want to, and then I kind of knew, like my gut just told me when it was the right time to launch a product.
Yeah.
Or, in my long spiel. I didn't mention that I actually left residency. I had to leave, and that was probably the hardest decision in my life, was leaving residency 9 months into my first year, and it's a 3-year residency. And if you leave residency, you're essentially burning a bridge, potentially burning a bridge that you may not be able to get back into any residency, which means I may never be able to get my license, which means I spent 4 years in medical school, $250,000, and my gut was telling me I have to leave residency to go get my master's first, because that's really the direction that I was kind of being pulled in. Then I got my master's, then I went back to residency, and it was just by chance and really being true to myself and passion, and I'm reliable and dependable, and I carry the other qualities that someone would be like, okay, even though she quit or left her other residency, I can trust her to come back in and fulfill the rest of the time. So you still have to have some cred, but my gut was like that program wasn't a fit, and I knew that for the bigger picture, I had to do some step first to get kind of to that step, and just kind of leaving. And then recently, how we were speaking about how I left my practice was another very difficult decision, and I had been contemplating it for like a year, probably before. Like I knew at some point. And then when I kind of knew it had to happen, like my gut was like now, like something has to happen. And just kind of that intuition was like, this is the right time.
Yeah. And the gut never lies. The gut, no, you know what you want, right? And then I think that's what takes a change maker, is someone that's able to listen to that and ignore, what the normal is, because the normal can always be broken. There's those agreements that we accept or don't accept, right? And a leader is someone who is able to break the norm, and that's what you've been able to do. So I really want to acknowledge you for that, and you continue to do that, which is really inspiring. So where does your inspiration come from?
I don't know, maybe the desire to not be status quo.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it sounds kind of crazy, but it really, like, I grew up in North Dakota, and like a town of 300 in North Dakota where everybody just kind of sits on their ass and doesn't do anything. And I remember from like a very young age being like, I got to get fuck out of here and like do something with my life, because it's so isolated. Imagine like middle of America, 300 people, everyone's related. Like it's just
everyone knows each other. They know what each other's doing tomorrow and next week, and
all they do is talk about the weather and just like gossip. And I was like, you know what? So that's when I moved to New York. And that's the other thing. I visited my sister in New York, and I felt like, oh, this is home, because people were so inspired. People were doing things. And then there was a baseline of anonymity, which I loved, coming from 300 people where everyone was in your business. And I'm just like, I like to just kind of like be known, because I'm doing things and I'm very accessible on like the internet, and like post things and have, a following. However, when I step aside from that, I really want to be like anonymous. Sometimes I just want to like be in the gym, no one's talking, just kind of, and New York really allows that. So I think my inspiration is that, I don't know if it's North Dakota, but I really carry you have one life and you have one chance. And every single day I seek growth, personal growth, intellectual growth, physical growth. And, every year, like new year, I like to look back and say, this is where I was a year ago, and this is where I am now. And if something's not contributing to that growth, whether it's jobs or education or a relationship or a friendship, then I get out, because really you got one shot.
Yeah.
I really want to do as much as I can in that shot,
Yeah.
and I love what I'm doing, that I feel like I've found my purpose, and that keeps me inspired, because every day, if I work every day, which I pretty much do work every day, is it doesn't feel like work when you're doing whatever that purpose is. When
Yeah.
you find your calling, it's not work. I'm completely fulfilled and satisfied, and it fulfills a deeper purpose when I'm out there teaching or educating a patient, or have someone, listen to a webinar that I do.
So tell me more about what that purpose is then. What is that purpose that obviously motivates you and drives you to continue to grow and to expand your business and to, create the changes that you are? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think my purpose, originally I used to think that my purpose was to be a healer, but I think it's more of an educator. And anytime I have the chance with a patient, I'm educating them. So it's not just, okay, my role is to make you feel better, but that's satisfying. But if I can educate that patient to take ownership on themselves, then that's much more satisfying.
Yeah.
So the education side, and, I can't explain the fulfillment when I'm speaking at a conference. And if I'm in front of 500 people or whatnot, it's not that, oh, I'm on a stage in front of 500 people. It's, oh my God, my message is getting out there to 500 people who can then trickle down to 500 each, boom, 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 down. And, I was explaining to a friend recently as far as like purpose and things like that. And there was something about like lonely on the top that I had recently posted on Facebook, of like, you have to just like every day, if you're a leader, you have this dedication to whatever that message is, and that it can be lonely on the top, because of how dedicated you are. But if you are on top and you're alone, quote unquote alone, you're not lonely, in my opinion, if you're fulfilling whatever that purpose is. So if I'm alone on top, I'm not necessarily lonely. I'm fulfilling my purpose.
And you're being a leader. Is it the leader?
And you're being, and you're being a leader. People are looking up to you, and it's very fulfilling, etc. Is that for some reason I was given this gift of fitness, podiatry, and then this movement science, where there's no one in the fitness industry who has a podiatry background. So I have something very unique. The way that I look at movement and assess my patients and teach others how to assess their patients is a gift that was given to me. I never thought that I would end up here, but I was given this gift. And it's my purpose to fulfill that gift, to teach others to see movement in that same way. And if I don't fulfill that gift or share that gift with other people who can influence other lives, that's doing a huge disservice to really humanity, because that's what our purpose is to further the next generation.
To share that.
It's probably going totally deep, but that's what I think that it is.
Yeah, it's something that includes you, but it's way bigger than you, right? The impact, obviously, as you're saying, it's to share that, educate people, and the layers down that continues to impact, and what impact that can have on the generations to come is massive. Yeah, that's fantastic. And so what's been your biggest challenge as a change maker in this industry?
Well, I would say one thing that just kind of came to mind as we were talking about this, which you could blend into this question, is really owning, not that responsibility, but like really taking it, where some people are like, oh, some people have done research on textured insoles and the effect it can have on, millions of people around the world, and blah, 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 improve balance, reduce falls, cerebral palsy, Parkinson's, things like that. And someone wrote me an email and was like, I've seen the research, but no one has made something like that commercial until you. And I was like, wow, that's kind of like, those are some big shoes to fill. If people are like, really expecting, not expecting, but just like you're making this huge impact, that can be a little like, oh my God, like
Like
you
a
have to like,
responsibility.
yeah, kind of,
Yeah.
yeah. And then just like a pressure of like, fulfilling that, continuously fulfilling that. That's just like, what if I don't deliver that message and people are kind of thinking like, oh, she's going to be the one to make that impact. And then you kind of like, so there it's a little pressure of, obviously that's self-induced pressure of like, don't crack at the seams because there's so much pressure on you, but
Being able to
it's,
deliver.
and believing that yourself, like, oh, wow, that's me who's doing that when I'm, a small town girl from a town of 300 in North Dakota. Like, I could say like, this really shouldn't be where I am because I'm a small town girl. Like,
Yeah,
how'd
you
I
could say
have
that.
that
Yeah. And I guess
that
you,
opportunity?
yeah, and I guess you could have that, like we all have self-doubt. We all have,
Yeah.
something that runs behind the scenes. Am I good enough? Or, whatever, right? Fear and so forth. And I'm sure those things are still present for you, and they come up just like any of us. But
Yeah. So
it's,
I'd say that would be a challenge. Um, and then, you go into like uncharted territory. Now that I'm in the industry of product and manufacturing, that's kind of uncharted territory for me.
yeah,
I trained as a doctor. I didn't go to business school.
yeah,
So it's learning things, um, as you're going and kind of believing, almost like when people say fake it till you make it. And like you have
yeah,
to kind of like really believe that you're there
yeah.
before you're there. And then, kind of keep pursuing those things. And I've always focused on the bigger picture, which I think is a great thing, as long as, you don't get too anxious doing it.
Yeah.
That's just a
Yeah,
whole
well,
nother topic.
I think any great entrepreneur needs to focus on the big picture. If they can't see that, then, sometimes we might need a little bit of help with the details, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Like
I
what
mean,
you said.
but that's huge, advice that I don't think everybody realizes or values, is like seeing the bigger picture. Where I had the practice that I just left, where I was there for almost 5 years. I had that job offered to me the first day of my residency, when I was first year resident
First year.
in the
Yeah.
program that I left.
Yeah.
Then I went back and got my master's. Then I went back and got my residency. And I knew after all that ended up being like 4 years of
Yeah.
blah, 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 that I still had that job offer from day one, in
Yeah.
2008.
Yeah.
And that's because I always looked at the bigger picture, and I knew that offer was there, and I continuously maintained a relationship. I sent him patients. I would, still be like
Yeah. Still be there.
continuously there and still representing, who I am from a bigger picture. And, that's so important. You always have to think of down the road more.
Yeah, definitely. And that was kind of my next question, which you've already given a couple of tips, but what would be the biggest tip or advice that you'd give someone who wants to become a change maker in their own community, or in their business, or in the industry that they're in?
Yeah, I think, definitely understanding, regardless of the industry, is, the evolution and how quick things turn. Where that was the thing that I understood from Catwalk Confidence, which is where I first met you, was kind of a trendy. It was still a barefoot workout, but it was kind of like fashion, women, heels. At that time, everyone was doing like stiletto workouts, and pole dance was really popular at that time. So it kind of fit in with that pole dance. But I knew, even though I didn't have a business degree, that things continuously change. They fade and they fade out.
Yeah.
And that if I wanted to make a lasting impact in the industry, it couldn't be from like a catchy, flashy, trendy workout such as that. I did get tons of media. I wrote a book around it, so it's still a revenue generator for me. But from the larger picture, I was like, okay, how can I evolve and to make a larger impact? And then how can I evolve into something that doesn't have a ceiling? So everything that I've done has continuously evolved from, changing and going with the flows of the industry and things like that.
Yeah.
So
So
think in that bigger picture and not being too
yeah,
blinded.
one-minded, like not being flexible, then
Yes.
that could limit and cap where you go. Yeah, the industry is changing consistently day in, day out, and like you said, there's trends and fads and so forth. And yeah, you've definitely shown that you're very flexible and willing to evolve and grow and apply all of the things that you've spoken about today, which is which is so awesome. Um, is there anything else that you wanted to add in before we wrap it up?
I would say the last thing is to find, again, not necessarily with fitness or medicine, but that's more my background, is if you're going to come up with your own whatever program or method or certification education, um, is taking all different unique backgrounds, and it has to be blended into your own uh, vision. When I first started presenting, I tried to mimic people that I admired and the way that they presented. And then you really have to just kind of have it be yourself. And when you're presenting or education, you have to lose yourself, and it has to be about the bigger picture. So where I switched in my presentation skills is I got rid of me. Like
Yeah,
I had to stop worrying about how I looked, how I presented. My goal when I was there in front of however many people it was, whether it was 10 or 1,000, was that the purpose is not me. The purpose is that they get the message. So it's all about them versus, do I look funny? Are they listening? Are they paying attention? Now I don't care what I probably like look ridiculous when
which you
I'm like
don't.
presenting because I just want them to get the message. And so you have to lose yourself. And um, the book, The Power of Now, which is just amazing for everything, completely changed my life. I read that actually after I started getting into like presence when speaking, but it's the same thing. And I think that's why I enjoy presenting so much, is because it brings you into the now.
Yeah,
That 1 hour lecture or 8 hour full day fulfills me in a certain way because I'm really present. And that's really what it is. Like it's a job that forces me to be present. When I'm with a patient, nothing else in the world matters except that patient. So it's very fulfilling because I've found presence in patient care. I found presence when I'm teaching my classes. I found presence when I'm lecturing. And if someone can find that, even if it's a business meeting, then that's really how they start being fulfilled.
yeah, that's a great piece of advice, and I think in industry, a lot of it can start with being about us, and the ego gets in and so forth, and that would probably be one of the biggest lessons that I've learned as well personally. When you drop yourself and you make it about them, that's what shines through. People feel that, they see that we love people that are really there for others, and we're attracted to that, and we can, anyone can feel and notice when someone's kind of up there for themselves or up there for, educating and really being about others. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that's contributed to your success, is that people see that, they feel that. And that's that's a great piece of advice. And I love the book, The Power of Now, as well. Eckhart Tolle, right? I remember I remember
Yep,
reading that as well.
yep.
Yeah, really great book. Well, that's fantastic. Some really great advice there, Em, and it's really great to hear about your evolution and how you've grown and where you've come to today. And I'm sure we're going to continue to see some more amazing things come out. And yeah, I just really want to thank you so much for your time.
Of course, thank you. I feel that I've kind of found a little bit of this deeper purpose is helping others. That's
Yeah.
really the next thing, is helping others kind of get past whatever's limiting them to find their purpose.
Yeah, awesome. Great. All right, well, have a fantastic trip. I know you're heading off over the next month on a Asian tour again.
I am, yes.
Uh,
Can't stay away from Asia.
So enjoy your trip, and I look forward to touching base with you again really soon.
Perfect. Thank
All
you.
right, thanks again.
Yep.
Bye bye.
Bye.